We are back to The Rape of the Mind, The Psychology of Thought Control, Menticide, and Brainwashing by Juiced and Merleau, MD. We are in Chapter 14, and this is Part 4, or Video 4 of that chapter. Self-betrayal. As we have seen, there are various inner motivations which may lead to the crime of disloyalty or treason. Sometimes these motivations operate very subtly, in ways unknown to the subject. Sometimes treason is merely a crude selling out to those who pay best. Let us try to arrange and classify some of these motivations, starting with the unconscious ones and ranging toward deliberate treason. In the first place, an act of betrayal may begin as a defense against the feeling of being lost and rejected. In order to win acceptance in a group, the individual may hide and not defend his private beliefs and convictions when attacked. In psychology, this may be called, if such passive behavior becomes an unconscious habit, the passive submission to and identification with the stronger person. Oh-ho. If you cannot beat the enemy, join him. And that was by Anne Freud, she says that. Although the concept of the inner traitor in us is not so easy to accept by studying the contrasting inner drives that lead man, one becomes more convinced of that possibility. The clinical concept of man's inner ambivalences is based on numerous psychological experiences. In studying the deeper motivations of many a traitor, we often see that his treacherous act happened after an inner turmoil threatened to break him down, to make an uncontrolled nervous wreck out of him. It is as if the future mental patient preferred to surrender to an outward enemy rather than to the inward enemies of disease and nervous breakdown. Hess was on the verge of a schizophrenic breakdown when he broke Hitler's rules and flew to England. Let us consider the British Foreign Office spies Donald Maclean and Guy Burgess. Both showed several symptoms of imminent mental breakdown. It may be known to the reader that both these men left England in May 1951 in order to go via France to Russia. Both deliberately fled the country. Both had communist leanings during their student days at Cambridge, but later renounced their adolescent affiliations. Both showed abnormal symptoms during their service. Maclean had a breakdown in May 1950 due to overwork and excessive drinking. Burgess was reprimanded for reckless driving while in service and for neglect of his work. Reading through the report, one is surprised by the amount of mental instability which was tolerated at such a sensitive spot of the government. Both the men had homosexual leanings that can be related to a suppressed hostility for their mothers and mother country. Sometimes treason means a one-sided appeal to justice. This is found in the man who demands some sort of private protective justice and who refuses to acknowledge the subtle relationship between rights and duties. Such persons always feel continually deprived and betrayed. They are what Bergler calls the injustice collectors. In their acts of disloyalty, they are seeking to play the role of their own private judges. Many querulous and even paranoid persons have this kind of character structure. Then there is the disappointed pseudo-idealist who gradually turns into a cynic, covering his emptiness by many self-justifications and exculpations. Such persons or such people betray their intellectual disappointment in all their debunking remarks. Conflicts between parents may give rise in the child to the need to betray one or both parents, and this need may be transferred in later life to a need to betray the fatherland. I have often found that the unsolved ties of hate and love toward the parents play an important role in forming the turncoat personality. As we say, this problem often lies at the root of the totalitarian character structure. Although the totalitarian minded are not, by definition, overt traitors, some of these people can easily become traitors to free democratic ideals, either out of compulsive allegiance to a foreign ideology or out of repetitive nonconformism. In describing special characteristics of a political group, one has to keep in mind that basic inner contrasts are inherent in all people. The quasi-rational Marxist interpretation of the world, which satisfies the need for logical clarification and reasonable organization of social life, covers anxiety created by the irrational inner forces so easily detected in the totalitarian-minded. The cult of the masses often serves as a defense against loneliness. The belief in progress may be born out of vague despair and insecurity. The fear of deviationism is the fear that the unity of the group will be broken. Suspicion and self-criticism serve to keep, above all, the in-group together. There are several forms of inner conceit that can turn man into a traitor. The Dutch philosopher of whom I spoke earlier is an example of this, as are any of the verbose ideological apologists for totalitarianism. Lack of confidence or lack of belief in the guiding traditions and aims of one's own society can also lead to hostility, then to treason. Without such traditional beliefs, suggestibility and receptivity for competing ideologies are increased. The Klaus Fuchs case, I know it's probably pronounced Fuchs, but I just like calling him Fuchs. The Klaus Fuchs case, which was mentioned earlier, is an example of this. The personal need to be a pioneer or a martyr, often instilled by the unconscious need to suffer, may lead to a private messianic delusion and cause an attack on the traditional values of the group. Many groups consider such extremism as treacherous behavior. Another form of self-betrayal may be caused by the inability to grasp the complexity of the real world. Many people have been seduced into unstable behavior and even disloyalty through lack of comprehension of these complexities and through the need to find a single, all-embracing, easy answer to the problems of human life. Wow, that sounds like everybody I know. Who gives them the simple myth to believe in? The Nazis seduced nearly all of Germany into a form of ideological treason in this way. Treason may also be a paradoxical reaction to a deep-seated neurotic sense of guilt. The neurotic strategy of accumulating more guilt coupled with the consequent development of an inner need for punishment are often the basic causes of criminal action. Treacherous deed is done precisely in order to provoke punishment. Treason may also be paid adventure, as we find it in international espionage. This kind of life fascinates the immature mind, which lives in the world of mystery stories and fairy tales. Bribes with women or money make such treason even more attractive. The enemy gratifies economic and sexual needs, and the traitor is willing to sell his integrity to the highest bidder. Overt fear and panic can also cause treason. The whole psychology of totalitarian interview and interrogation is based on this principle. People can be frightened and brainwashed into treason. And I'll stop right there because it picks up in another section. And there's only like a couple minutes or a minute and a half left anyway. So that's where we'll stop. And this was part 4, or video 4, of Chapter 14. We are reading from The Rape of the Mind, The Psychology of Thought Control, Menticide, and Brainwashing by Just A.M. Relu, M.D.